When you're ready.
After reading the articles Urban Evolution and the Dark Side of Resilience, I formed the investigative question, should the human population focus on preventing the rise of climate change, or can people rely on animal adaptation for environmental sustainability? Research shows that climate change has a consequential impact on all organisms and is participating in the increasing extinction rates of numerous species. Environmental sustainability relies on the security of the Earth's inhabitants, and animals will not be able to adapt at the current rate of change. Humans need to adjust their ways of resilience to this rising situation and focus on preventing further impacts. Climate change is the gradual shift of temperature and weather patterns that cause a natural rise in heat. The increase develops with the greenhouse effect, where gases in the atmosphere, such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, absorb and trap light, causing the Earth to regulate heat. The process occurs so the planet does not freeze or become uninhabitable to organisms. However, the problem regarding climate change is not freezing, it's global warming. According to NASA, since the 18th century, the Industrial Revolution, human activities have contributed to a 50% increase in atmospheric gases. The Industrial Age created inventions that require non-renewable energy, and not only does using fossils release emissions, but the process of gaining those resources releases additional emissions. For example, cutting down trees in Canada's boreal forest releases an average of 25 million metric tons of carbon dioxide annually. The surge in atmospheric gas levels has resulted in the greenhouse effect overworking and producing too much heat. As seen on the graph, the global temperature has increased 1.1 degrees Celsius since pre-industrial times. Global warming impacts or alters different ecosystems and weather patterns, causing a significant impact on all forms of life. For example, extreme heat has melted glaciers and caused Arctic animals to lose their homes. Temperature can also affect how reliable an area is. Severe heat is causing evaporation and precipitation rates to increase and cause other problems such as drier vegetation, decreasing water levels, and limited food sources. This causes a significant concern because once habitats no longer contain reliable resources, animals will need to find new ways to survive. The survival of animals relies on the ability to adjust to new situations, including mechanisms like evolution, phenotypic plasticity, and adaptation. Evolution is a biological shift in an animal's body as a mechanism of coping with a changing environment. It's also heritable throughout generations. The Urban Evolution article introduced me to the English peppered moth, which in the 19th century, the rates of coal pollution grew. The English peppered moth then grew darkened in color as a response to the coal pollution. This example shows that animals can change with environmental changes, meaning evolution would be the ideal survival method for animals. However, evolution takes time, and getting a successful modification passed down to offspring will take even more time. That being said, with the increasing rate of climate change, evolution cannot be a reliable solution. Another process is phenotypic plasticity. This process is when a specific genetic sequence is capable of epigenetic change, or producing more than one effect, meaning an animal contains a gene that holds multiple physical traits and can switch or reverse those traits when faced with environmental stress. An example is the skatefish that are located in the Gulf of St. Lawrence and the Atlantic coast. They shrink their body size in warmer water to achieve better oxygen rates. What makes this process unreliable is that a limited number of species have the capability of epigenetic change. Humanity then turns to adaptation of knowing its reliability. Adaptation is a process where species adjust to fit their environment. One way animals adapt is through migration. However, the United Nations states that by the end of the 21st century, there is a predicted rise of global temperature of 2.8 degrees Celsius. This means the rate of climate change will be too fast for animals to migrate. If that arises, animals will be expected to alter their characteristics to survive the situations. This method is referred to as shapeshifting. Body parts expand in length as a mechanism for regulating body temperature, but sometimes these modifications can become harmful, like if a bird's beak is too big to reach food. There's also the concern of the adaptations not being heritable. For instance, if an offspring's genetics are accustomed to a temperate climate, but the baby is born in warmer weather, the animal may end up deceased from overheating if unable to adapt in time. Adaptation also takes a long period of time. Regardless of this downside, humanity has still chosen to rely on adaptation. This is because humans are known to be resilient and therefore don't feel the need to advocate. Resilience is the ability to manage or cope with stressful situations. People develop resilience after going through hardships. However, people begin to tolerate undesirable occasions. After reading The Dark Side of Resilience, I was able to relate this ability with climate change. I found that instead of finding solutions, humanity has instead developed a tolerance to climate issues. People believe that the situation may recover with time, so even if humans have the power to make a difference, but things seem tolerable, they will not change their ways. The current data shows that climate change will not resolve on itself. Population must take action or there will be a threat to biodiversity and sustainability. Biodiversity is a variety of organisms that make up different ecosystems. The planet depends on biodiversity for numerous reasons such as clean water, oxygen, and food. Yet climate change is one of the biggest threats to biodiversity. Because animals struggle to adapt to weather alterations, extinction rates are estimated to have grown 1,000 times the original rate. These concerns need to be discussed because people have been inattentive toward the effect on sustainability, which is when the Earth can maintain an ecological balance and support future organisms. Without sustainability, biodiversity shrinks, and as a result, the food chain also shrinks. All populations depend on the environment, and all organisms have an impact. Because of this, the Earth and its inhabitants need to be protected. Biodiversity is heavily relied on for the Earth to maintain sustainability, but cannot maintain balance with climate change. There are several methods to lower gas emissions. The best way is by switching to renewable energy, like solar, wind, or hydropower. These sources can provide electricity, heat, cooling, and lighting while being more affordable than other energy types. Additional ways to reduce someone's personal carbon footprint are lowering the amount of water, waste, or fuel that they consume. This does not mean ridding the world completely of all innovations that consume fossil fuels, because completely eradicating climate change might not be possible, and some people might not have access to new sources. However, many people do have the power to lower their carbon footprint, and even if people choose to do so, there will be a significant impact on the Earth. Because of this, humanity should focus on preventing climate change instead of relying on animal adaptation for sustainability.
Okay, thank you. For the audience, for the presentation. A couple of questions. What evidence did you gather that you didn't include, and why did you choose not to include it?
I gathered extended information on how climate change impacts the food chain. In my research, prior to writing my paper, I had examples of small species like krill that are in danger of decreasing populations due to the oceans becoming acidic. The loss of the krill species can result in bigger animals like whales or penguins losing their food sources. I decided not to include these examples because I had already talked a little bit about how food sources are decreasing and the increased extinction rates. I chose to prioritize other information like environmental sustainability instead of talking more about the food chain.
Okay, thank you. What additional questions emerged from your research, and why are they important questions?
When I first began my research, my question was solely surrounding people knowing about adaptation. As I was continuing my research, I realized that other processes like evolution and phenotypic plasticity were well known. I then developed the question of which process is more relied on and why. This question is important because each process gives humanity an excuse to be inattentive to climate change. Without this question, I would not have been able to bring awareness to the limitations of each process, and therefore my claim would have been weaker.
Okay, thank you.